It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Chad Chadderton, who I've known for 30 years. My God, I think you and Mike Murphy were the two first people I ever met in this town. You're unbelievable. He's the broker and owner of AhwatukeeRealty.com. You know, he's got to be old if he was able to get the domain name Ahwatukee Realty. That you had to be the first one in order to get that. He was established here in 1974 and is proud of his 42 years of professional real estate services in all areas of Maricopa and Pinal counties. He has been a part of the fantastic growth in the Valley of the Sun and continues to grow with the Valley. He wants to help everyone that is looking to come here. He has a professional team dedicated to meeting your real estate needs, from new homes to resales, short sales, foreclosures, investment properties to commercial property, rentals to renting a home, out of property management, short-term to long-term, Arizona to Mexico. Loan assistance is also available. The Mexico, I take it you mean Rocky Point?
Rocky Point.
Yeah, a lot of my friends have a condo down in Rocky Point. Browse through his inventory of featured properties for sale at his website, AhwatukeeRealty.com. They're all there. My gosh, you just walked into so much stuff you need to explain. Well, first of all, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. My gosh, if anybody's seen Ahwatukee change more. You were really here in 74?
77, I bought my first house here. And there were 2,300 people.
Wait, I gotta write this down. Okay, so you bought your first house in 1977, and there were 2,300 people here. Right. And this is 2017. I don't know calculus or math very well, but I think that's 40 years
ago.
And what do you think the population is here today?
About 87,000.
Oh my gosh. What does it feel? Has Ahwatukee lost its flavor? I mean, I got here in 87, 10 years after you.
Right.
And what I loved about Ahwatukee, growing up in Wichita, it was a small town that just happened to be next to Phoenix.
Right.
But with the mountain preserve and the Indian reservation, it was like a pizza pie, only 4 ways in.
The world's largest cul-de-sac.
And you thought you were back in Wichita, Kansas.
Right.
Does it still feel that way to you? Does it still feel like the small town at the edge of the big city?
I still think there's small town atmosphere, but we've seen so much progress. So the 202, for example, that's going to take away our bedroom community feel, I believe. Yeah,
because there'll be 3 more. Is it 3 more entrances into Ahwatukee out? 3 entrances into Ahwatukee out the 202?
4.
Is it going to be 4?
I think there'll be 4.
Do they know where they're going to be at?
That I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Did it bum you that they had to tear out a row of houses instead of putting it on the south side with the empty fields?
Well, that would have been Indian reservation.
Right.
So that the Indians voted against it.
Oh, but do you know why?
I don't know. I think they came back. Sounds like they've been back and forth. I would think they would have wanted closer to the casino. That's why they moved Gila River Casino closer to I-10. They get more traffic that way.
Yeah, and just being a good neighbor. I mean, you think a good neighbor would put on empty field before you had to tear down churches.
Well, the 2 things that concern me about the freeway. One is, back in '88, I spent 22 months master planning South Mountain Park with a Citizens Advisory Committee.
When?
1988.
Okay, 1988, you did what?
I was on the Citizens Advisory Committee, CAC, for the master plan South Mountain Park. The first phase of that was taking inventory. Nobody really knew where the boundaries were, etc. South Mountain was given to the City of Phoenix by the Bureau of Land Management under a patent back in the 20s. And one of the provisions was it could never be developed. So a question I had is, they're taking out the west 3 acres of South Mountain for that freeway. Does that violate the patent? And the other concern I have, I've been a commissioner on the Fire Safety Advisory Board, City of Phoenix, since '91. There's 2 pipelines that come into our tank farm on 55th Avenue in Van Buren. One from El Paso, one from LA. That was built in the 50s. There's certain products we use today, such as ethanol, etc., that can't come through the pipeline because they're corrosive. So they come in by tanker truck. There's a lot of hazardous materials out there that we're not aware of, or the average person's not aware of. So my concern, and I just asked questions, if there was an hazmat spill on the 202, how are you going to evacuate everybody out of there? So that's something I've been asking questions the last few months on.
So, do you mind me asking you how old you are? I'm 55. Doesn't bother me.
I'll be 62 next month.
There's a lot of young kids wanting to buy a first-time home buyer, and I'm not a real estate. You had your eyes on real estate, and I've had my eyes in back of people's mouths. Seems like, it's always a cycle. Seems like every 10 years, it seems like real estate goes up, down, and
right.
2008 we had a very big crash. Now it's almost a decade later. Now you hear people thinking, does that mean, do you think we're in bubble territory in real estate?
If you look at the crash we had, one that was blamed on fraudulent lending. That was the biggest issue. The thing that concerned me, the first red flag I noticed in the market then, was as long as we stay within 4 to 7% appreciation, that's normal.
4 to 7% per year?
Appreciation on your house.
Okay.
When we saw 40+%, you knew it had to correct itself. So that was my first red flag.
Well, the stock market's done that in the last 10 months.
Yeah.
That's going to make you... don't you agree? The stock market's appreciated more. Ryan, how much has the stock market gone up in the last year? So the stock market's gone up 18%, which is growing faster than is normal.
Right.
So you say when real estate goes up 4 to 7% a year, that's kind of a normal range. What's it been like in the last?
We're back to that right now.
4 to 7%?
Yeah.
So you see,
depending what area you're on. Yeah.
We only talk about Ahwatukee.
Yeah.
I know you're love Maricopa too, but I won't hold that against you. No, I'm just kidding. But Ahwatukee, do you think it's a healthy real estate market here in Ahwatukee?
Yeah, it definitely is. Your condos have jumped up quite a bit. They've doubled pretty much. Your market up to 400,000 is pretty active. 400 to 700,000, for whatever reason, is probably the slowest market. And then 700 above, that doesn't seem to affect people that have in that price range as far as their income, etc.
So let's educate these people. You got 40 years experience in real estate, and on your bio, so many of these things people don't know. So I'm just going to go through. First of all, what advice would you give to a millennial? Because podcasters are young.
Right.
Old guys like us are still watching television and have VCRs and 8 tracks. Podcasters are pretty young. So what advice would you tell some young millennial who's thinking about buying their first house?
What I'm seeing with the millennials, the media is giving a kind of an image, and you don't know how much of that to believe. So what I've been told is, our generation, people are getting married at 22 and having families. The average millennial today is 28 when they get married. A lot of the millennials I know of, they'd rather rent a nice apartment, small condo, etc., have access to social functions around them, and drive a brand new car and have the car payment. They're not thinking about investing in real estate. When they get about 28, and then they get, and I've even heard that there's some millennials don't even believe in cars, that they just use Uber.
Right.
So there's a whole different mindset than our generation. I feel old saying our generation. What I think is you'll see, what I believe with the millennials is at some point, and it's going to be later than we did it, but I think around early 30s is when your millennials start thinking seriously about buying and investing in real estate. I was 21 when I bought my first house, which was a little bit different. A lot of people weren't buying at 21, but I still think real estate is a good investment, and it depends on your long-term goal. My goal is to leave 3 paid-off properties to my 3 granddaughters.
What about me?
Well, I have a doghouse in the back. It has an outhouse attached to it. But there's different philosophies too. So once you get into own a property, there's 2 thoughts too. Do you pay extra towards the principal, pay it off? That's my dad's generation. Or do you take that extra money, put it aside so it's liquid, And what's your long-term goal in real estate? If you can, one thing I thought about is, for example, maybe the millennials aren't thinking this far ahead, but all of a sudden looking that I've got 3 granddaughters and a daughter, so that's a whole different story too.
You have 3 grandchildren?
Yes.
All girls?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and my son-in-law, my daughter, and my 3, they all live in Austin. And the market there is comparable. They just bought a house, so that's about the same market as here, price-wise and what you get. What I was thinking, I just did a trust. So what I was thinking about, do I need insurance for assisted living? My dad lived to be 87. His mother lived to be 95. I have an aunt 91, 93. So I may be around another 25 years or so. Do I get assisted living insurance? I looked into it. Once you buy that, then you are going to pay for it until you use it or you die. Where if I could pay off 3 houses, the assisted living is the fastest growing business in the country, one of the fastest growing, which means it should stay competitive. And I'm seeing $3,000 to $5,000 a month average stay for a person. If I have 3 paid off houses and I have income from those 3 houses, that would pay for assisted living if I ever need it, and then I can pass it on to my granddaughters. So that's my long-term strategy. And for a millennial, I think you need to think about what's your short-term goal, what's your long-term goal, what's your strategy as far as investing and where you want to be. I mean, I'm sure everybody would love to have a paid-off house at some time.
You know, you just opened up a whole can of worms. When you and I got here, Ahwatukee, a big part of it was a retirement community.
It had when I first came out here, people thought that's all it was.
Yeah, and now, do you realize that when you go down the foothills, they refer to where my office is at 40th and Alley, they call it Old Ahwatukee,
yeah.
And the foothills in Mount Barton New. But, you know, a lot of you people that are, you hate your job, you always want to start your own business, but you don't want to go into, what did you just say? Assisted living is one of the fastest growing. And, you know, I always talk about profit on the torso. When you make a decision with your brain, those companies are usually small profit margins. Like when you're buying bottled water and things like that. I mean, those are maybe 5% profit margins. When you move down the body to your heart, and you know, choosy mothers choose Jif, and I want to be a good parent, so I want to take my kid in every 6 months to get their teeth cleaned or get her braces. Yeah. Those profit margins get bigger because it's more emotional. And assisted living, I mean, when people are putting their mom or dad into a nursing home, it's very emotional. And when they find these you should buy a house and just have, you know, 4 or 5 elderly people living in there. That is a solid business because you just want your mom and dad to be in a small, loving home where everybody's taking care of them. You get really sketchy when it starts becoming a huge nursing home with several hundred people and it has more of a factory flavor to it. Right. But that's a great small business that's going to explode as now, the boomers retire.
25% of our population today is over 65.
What percent?
25%. 25% of your drivers on the road, so it's put it in context. We are living longer, but the quality may not be there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that is, you know, you're a busy yuppie, or you're working, you got kids, and you're trying to find a place for your 80-year-old mother with Alzheimer's or whatever, and that's going to be a fast-growing business, and it'll probably be a fast-growing business right here in Ahwatukee.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because if you retired out in Ahwatukee in the 80s, you know, all your friends are here, you know, and yeah, so that is amazing. That'd be a great. I bet you that'll be one of the fastest-growing businesses in Ahwatukee. You also said real estate eats from new homes to resales. What is a resale? You mean just selling your home?
Resale, basically, it's a home somebody's living in now. So if I were to put your house up, this would be a resale. Okay. Versus a new build from the ground up.
Okay, you also talked about in your bio short sales. I guarantee you 99% of America doesn't know what a short sale is. What is a short sale?
There's not as many as there used to be, but basically your house was not worth what the mortgage was.
So that's what they call upside down.
Right, so you're upside down. You negotiate with the bank. You say you'd like to do a short sale. So in the short sale, you get an offer, you approve it, then you pass it to the bank for their short sale the loss mitigation department, etc. So they're trying to minimize their loss right now. And if they have to foreclose on the house, foreclosures could cost up $25,000-$30,000 from the bank side. So as a business decision, they'd rather see a short sale rather than take the house back. And you negotiate and you try. Now they're going to get their money back on mortgage insurance pretty much anyway. But that's your short sale, you're upside down, and I as an agent can market that. You don't see very many short sales anymore or foreclosures. They're still out there, but not like they were.
You're talking about your goal is to leave 3 paid off homes to your 3 daughters, grandchildren.
Right.
My grandfather forgot to do that. Gosh darn it. And what is your view of, one of the first questions people ask, what's the difference between investing in residential, leave your daughter 3 homes, as opposed to commercial? Well, what's a better investment? And what do you think is a better investment? And especially considering that the game changer Amazon is, so many of these retail commercial real estates are, it seems like if you drive around Phoenix, the number 1 business is space for rent or space available.
Right.
Do you think Amazon's gonna crush this retail commercial stuff? It kind of looks like if what you sell could come in a package to your door, you're gonna go against Amazon. It seems like the people that do the best is, if I'm a barber or a mani-pedi or a dentist, if you need a human in the room, and Amazon can't touch that. But so how do you see commercial versus residential in Ahwatukee?
Well, just something I thought of and I didn't understand until I took a seminar. Why would somebody let a space stay empty and not negotiate and help the business out until they got through whatever time? What I learned is if there's a mortgage on your commercial building, the bank dictates the rent, not you or the landlord. It's the bank. And the bank doesn't want to start cutting rents and etc. So that's, I think, a big problem with people that either own commercial buildings or business. The business owners, I think, the ones that suffer the most, where they're tied in with a 5-year lease, 3 years in the business, it fails, they're still tied for that 2-year lease. There was an agent I knew that made a lot of money. He would go into a business, they still had 2 years left on the lease, so they might have a $300,000 obligation on rent. He'd go in and say, what if I could lease that out for you, sublease it, take a little less money for it, but your downside is not $300,000, maybe it'll be $50,000 because you'll supplement. He did a bunch. The problem, I think, with commercial as far as investment goes, and if you want to address what would be a good investment strategy for someone just getting into it, I think the residential, if it fails, it comes back faster than commercial, and you can control more what you do with your residential. So I think rentals are a great investment right now. The rents have gone up 7% a year in the last 2 years for housing. I think we're leveling off now because people's incomes have not gone up 7%, so we've kind of plateaued. But right now you get a very good return. If you can buy a rental in Ahwatukee under $300,000 or Maricopa under $200,000, you'll have a good cash flow and about a 10% or better return on your money.
Did you say a house under 300 and a condo under 200?
Maricopa.
Oh, Maricopa. Here's a question I hear. I just hear this stuff chair side,
Right.
They'll say things like, well, we're young millennials, we bought a starter house, but, hopefully 10 years from now we can upgrade to a nicer house or whatever. If you were going to buy a house and you wanted a rental property, would you want it no pool, no yard, desert landscaping, because sometimes they buy that starter home, but then they put in all this lawn and they put in a swimming pool.
A pool is like I'd compare it to an automobile. Once you put fluid in either one, the price goes down. So the $25,000 pool you paid for in your yard, when you go to sell your house, may be worth $8,000 to $10,000. So if you want a pool...
So you believe you'll lose $2 out of every $3 when you put in a swimming pool?
Definitely. When I was married, she wanted a pool. I said, well, if we're going to use it, fine, but we're not going to make money on it. So if you're interested in a pool, buy a resale, because now you bought a depreciated pool. Because the pool is just like a car; it's going to depreciate.
And how long do they last?
Pools?
Yeah.
Well, I've known pools some pools 50 years old. So what'll happen is if the plaster starts to deteriorate and you want to refinish it, what a lot of people do is you can refinish it in PebbleTech and then have an upgraded pool. And usually if you're going to do the pool, then you're probably going to wind up doing the surface around it as well.
You'll never guess why I have 4 boys and no pool.
That's all right.
Did you know why?
Why?
When we bought this house, we said, one of the reasons I bought this house because it had a big backyard, and I said it's big enough we can put a pool in there. And all 4 of my boys, all through school, they always had 2, 3, or 4 really close friends they spent a lot of time with. Every one of those kids' backyard had a pool, and they didn't have any place to play football or tag or this or that. And they all said, no, we can swim in all our friends' house. We have to go to a park. Now we can play in our backyard. So I'm like, okay.
Well, a lot of times when people got pools and the pool salesman came over, he wanted it to be the focal point looking at the backyard. And then people got smarter. They said, well, let's put it all the way to the side. But that was a big thing, is they wanted that to be your showcase of your backyard. So, yeah, you lose your backyard. And going back to your original question, I think that if you're going to buy a house and with the potential of being a rental, a single-story 4-bedroom is...
Single-story 4-bedroom? See, I'm so glad I had you on. I would have bet my 2004 car that is 13 years old that you would have said 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But you just said 4-bedroom.
Yeah, from a rental standpoint, you're going to...
Single level, 4-bedroom, how many bath?
2-bath.
2-bath. What about garage?
2-car garage.
Okay, so when did it move from 3 to 4-bedroom?
Well, you can still have 3 bedrooms, den, etc. I'd say the downside with having a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, you're going to have more people in the house, more wear and tear, but you're also going to get a higher rent having that extra bedroom, at least $75 more rent.
And also, when you look at what's as small as they go in Ahwatukee? I mean, as a retirement community, when people are retired, do they sell 1-bedroom homes, or does that not even exist?
No,
what's the smallest? 2-bedroom?
A 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's called the Mesquite model, around 900 square feet with a garage. So
it's called a Mesquite.
Mesquite model.
Mesquite,
yeah.
As for an Ahwatukee.
Yeah.
I was saying it came after mosquito, but the mesquite tree.
Yeah.
And it's 2-bedroom. How big?
1-bath.
1-bath.
Yeah, about 900 square feet. So figure twice the size of a 2-car garage. 2-car garage is about 400 square feet.
You know what I'm hearing more and more of? Our parents had so many things you just didn't talk about.
Right.
And now things, older people talk about more frequently. But it's amazing how many grandparents talk about it today that didn't talk about it to me 30 years ago. But sleep apnea is a big issue.
Right.
And I would say, if you tell your friends that you and your husband or your spouse sleep in separate rooms, people think, oh, you have problems, or there's no love.
My parents slept on different floors. My mom snored so loud.
Yeah, and people are starting to realize that, you say goodnight, and then they're tossing and turning, and their legs kicking in, they're going to the bathroom, and people have really come by trial and error that when you sleep in your own room, and it's dark, and it's cold, and your phone's not in it, there's no TV in there, and you go into a dark, cold room,
right, and
have to pull a blanket over yourself, and sleep 7-8 hours interrupted, you feel like $1 million.
Right.
But when you take I know you're a dog lover,
yeah,
but when you take your dog to bed and you're sleeping next to someone snoring and kicking and the dog's barking at every car that drives by, and then they wonder why they're exhausted all the time. But so on this real estate deal, if they were grandma and grandpa and they want to have a guest bedroom in case their kids come and visit them,
right,
I think the retirement community is going to go from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, just because I believe, like in my practice, I think 40% of the grandparents openly talk about how her and grandpa sleep in separate rooms.
Or I see a lot of twin beds too sometimes, but...
Oh, twin beds. Well, they get up and turn on the light.
But you're just saying they don't want to be interrupted. That's why you see. And yeah, my mom slept on the back in Long Island. My mom slept on the first floor. My dad had the second floor. He took when I left when I was 18. He took my room.
Just because of the snoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume my mom probably had sleep apnea. I think that
Oh yeah, if you're a big snorer, it's almost that in itself is almost a diagnosis.
Well, I think I had it, and I lost weight, and I did a sleep test, and I didn't. But with me, right now, I want to get. Ideally, I have a target weight, and I think that solves most people's medical problems: blood pressure, sleep apnea, etc. So that's just my take on that. As far as buying real estate,
if you're not obese and you don't smoke, you get rid of 60% of the diseases.
Oh yeah.
So.
And I walk the dogs about half a mile every morning, but I need to do a little more cardio.
You say dogs? How many are you up to now? Two. Now, do you sleep with them?
May sleeps with me.
But does May wake you up in the middle of the night?
No, when I fall asleep, then she leaves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, that's
but she'll stay with me till I sleep, and then she gets up.
Oh, that's adorable.
And then Wesley goes on guard duty.
Yeah.
May's my mom's first name, and Wesley was my dad's his middle name.
Oh, that's amazing. And that is truly amazing. So what is the most common house in Ahwatukee? Is it 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom?
Because we have retirement and family, I get a lot of requests for 5-bedroom, 3-car garage. That's not uncommon. The retirement area was the majority of homes at one time, and now that's smaller percentage. So right now, I think your average house in Ahwatukee would be 3-bedroom den, 4-bedroom in the 300s.
Let's say you're listening to this right now and you have a day job and you want to get into the real estate. You want to start owning real estate. Your company manages rental properties.
Right.
Talk about that. How does that work? Is it a percent of collections or a percent of the rent, or how is that set up? If I want to buy a house as a rental property, but I don't want to deal with renters,
right.
Do you also find the renters?
Yes.
So talk about that. What do you do?
Well, in '92, I decided I wanted to start a property management division. And my original purpose was for lead generation. The tenant eventually would buy a house. The people you manage eventually may want to sell it, so you have future business. What I found is when I got over 150 houses, it was profitable on its own because you have fixed overhead. So it doesn't matter how many houses you have.
So you're managing 150 homes?
Well, we were up to 300 at one time.
Holy moly. You gonna change your name to Bill Gates?
No, not quite.
But that's a serious business, managing 150 to 300 homes.
Right, and I have a full-time bookkeeper, I have a full-time maintenance person, and our agents do the inspections and that. So it's, my goal is I'd like to retire at 69. So as far as Ahwatukee Realty goes, from a business standpoint, each management is an asset to my business. So that's from a business owner, that's one way of looking at it. Most of our owners are out of state where they're absentee and they need somebody here to be their eyes and ears, collect. And I was in court 2 weeks ago, had to do an eviction. And I think you're a good property manager if you can stay out of court. But I had some people that I've known them for quite a long time and things just happen. And unfortunately, I have to take care of my owners. That's my client. And I had to move forward with the eviction. And
are most evictions because they stop paying, or is that because they stop paying?
Yeah, if someone's not doing...
So it's a foreclosure if I stop paying my mortgage, then it's a foreclosure to kick the person out of the mortgage. But it's the eviction if you're in a rental property, is that the terminology?
Right, yeah, so if the tenant's not honoring the contract, then we have to take action. So for example, when I say not honoring the contract, if they are getting constant HOA violations, that's a big thing. We get things for weeds, garbage, etc., not being put back. So we have to do an inspection and then send them a notice, make sure they take care of it. If they're creating a problem and they're not taking care of it, or they sneak in a dog, is something that happens. What we send out is what's called a cure notice, and that if they don't rectify it, then they violated the lease. Then you can move forward and do an eviction, which takes 19 days in Arizona.
So Now, there's no HOAs that ban dogs out here, is there?
What's that now?
There's no HOAs that don't allow dogs. You're just talking about rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if somebody signs a lease, we'll ask if they have a pet, and they say no. And then all of a sudden down the road, the kids or something, like, we want a dog, they don't tell us. If they tell us, fine, they pay the pet deposit, fine. But by sneaking in a pet, they violated the lease. And we'll work with them, but they just have to communicate with us.
And what about, is smoking also a problem when you're renting a house where they say you don't smoke?
That's interesting. We always put in no smoking because now I don't smoke. And if I go into a house where somebody's been smoking, I know it. So I wouldn't want to rent a house where somebody was a smoker. That includes the garage. The people don't realize that smoke can permeate into the house from the garage. The new thing right now that's interesting is marijuana. And one of our questions on the app is, do you have a medical marijuana license? They're still not allowed to smoke in the house. So if they have a medical marijuana license, they'd have to get edible products through that. But that's something too, that's created a big stir in the last 2 years.
Well, now Ahwatukee has a medical marijuana dispensary.
Right.
It's, what's it called? Sunflower.
How do you know?
Because I've actually been in contact with them and trying to get them on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I obviously don't smoke marijuana or anything like that, but when I was in college at Creighton University, 88 boys on a floor,
right.
9 floors deep. Imagine how much trouble can be in an all-Catholic Creighton dorm with 88 boys. What is 88 times 9? I mean, it's basically, almost 800 and whatever.
792.
792. But I noticed at an early age, I was only freshman year of college, that on Friday nights, if the boys snuck in marijuana, mm-hmm. they would just watch TV and eat a pizza. They were so mellow and manageable.
Yeah.
If they drank beer, they always wanted to leave the dorm and go find the girls and dancing and try to sneak girls back. And if they drank hard liquor and whiskey and Jack Daniels, they were punching each other and breaking stuff and fighting stuff. And I grew up with 5 sisters.
Right.
And my little brother wasn't born until after I left home because my parents were Catholic. And enough said. And God, I noticed in the first semester, it's like they should ban all vodka and whiskey and Jack Daniels and hand out free reefer at every university on Friday night, just from a police perspective, just for a managing the herd of cows perspective.
Well, something funny I heard a few weeks ago in Sun City. They have a drive-through dispensary in Sun City.
Oh my gosh! Now, Sun City, I haven't heard that name and haven't thought about that. How many people live in Sun City?
Oh, I don't know. That's one Del Webb built that. That was one of the first retirement communities.
I mean, what would you guess is a percent of the size of Ahwatukee? I mean, or Maricopa? What would you guess?
Yeah, Sun City's got. I don't know. I don't.
Google what is the population of Sun City? Is it Sun City, Arizona?
There's Sun City and Sun City West.
Yeah, just Sun City, Arizona.
I bet there's 50,000 people.
This says it's 37,500.
Wow, 30. So it's a half of Ahwatukee. Wow, that is big.
Yeah.
What percent? Okay, you said there's 87,000 people roughly in Ahwatukee. How many homes would that be? How many homes do you think are in Ahwatukee?
There's I know we used to be above the demographics that the average household here is larger than the average nationwide. So there's probably 3.54 people per household. So if you divide that by 3.5. So
take 87,000 divided by 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 be 24,800 homes. So basically we got 85,000 people in basically 25,000 homes. What percent of those homes do you think are in an HOA? Because when we grew up in Wichita, I'd never even heard of an HOA.
The only 2 areas I know of that do not have an HOA are north of Elliott, where I bought my first house was Wood Brothers.
Like on Piedmont around there?
Yeah. So between Elliott.
Is that where you still live?
I still have my house on Pierce.
Pierce.
I bought that in '79.
Okay, Pierce.
Yeah, it's two blocks from Western Star Park.
Okay.
I put Western Star Park in. And then you have
So that area doesn't have an HOA?
no, and then south of Chandler, Pecos, north in that area, Mountainside. There's not an HOA there.
Because there's always rebels. Some people are mad at HOA. I mean, I remember when I was little. When my boys were little, I was not happy in my HOA because they wouldn't let me put a basketball goal above my garage.
It would have to be affordable and put it
in Kansas. Every single buddy with kids had a basket, and it's like, why could we not stand on our driveway and shoot hoops? And I had to buy this portable, stupid, weird thing and fill up the back end with water to weight it down. It's just like But there are a lot of people who just say, I don't want a HOA. Yeah. So are these areas, like how many houses are in these two areas? I mean, is there a choice there? I mean, are they newer, older?
No, older.
These are both older sections?
Yeah.
So between Chandler and Pecos, east of 40th Street.
East of 40th Street.
East of 40th Street.
Yeah, there's a couple areas with HOAs, but that's if you're not.
Is that community called something? Does that community have a name?
Well, there's, in general, overall, no. It's all little not like Mountain Park Ranch.
Yeah.
So Mountain Park has all the subdivisions, and it's called Mountain Park Ranch. South of that, no, you have different subdivisions. There's no general name. It just falls under Ahwatukee. But if you came to me, the reason people don't want HOAs is they've had run-ins with them, and they just have a vendetta against them. I had somebody come to me one time, and they had a boat they wanted to park. So the rule is usually that if you want to put an RV gate in, you can use it, but nothing can be above the fence. I know somebody actually dug down a foot so they could pull their boat on a trailer, and you couldn't see it above the fence. So that was legal. But those are generally the two reasons I see. And going back, I don't even want to talk about Ahwatukee, but Maricopa, people go out Hidden Valley in those areas, get a few acres, and because they don't want an HOA, they want to do.
And there's still those places out in Maricopa?
Yeah, out of the town limits.
Yeah.
Now, I just sold a house across from the high school. There was no HOA there. But it was
how big is Maricopa these days?
52,000.
So is Ahwatukee pretty much built out? I mean, at 87,000.
There's 1,100 acres between 17th Avenue and 27th Avenue that's state owned. Every year it comes up for auction. Nobody's bought it yet.
So that would be the last, then it'd be mature.
Yeah, you see these little pockets. So my office is on 44th and Agave, north of Ray. They just up front.
That's where your office is?
Yeah.
Where's your office?
By Hub Fitness. You know where Hub Fitness is? Melanie Beecham's office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Melanie on the show.
Yeah, so my building's right across from her.
Okay.
Now, they just built new houses right there. So you're finding these little infield pockets that there's about 7 new home subdivisions right now in Ahwatukee.
Do you know Sal DeCiccio?
Yeah.
Is he a buddy of yours?
I knew Sal when he did mortgages.
I want to get him on the show.
Yeah.
He's the most requested person. Everyone on my page so far has seen that they go, get Sal on the show. A lot, and I ask them, I say, why? And they go, well, I voted for him several times because he's the only name I recognize on the ballot.
Yeah.
But they didn't even know if he was tall, short, had hair, bald, any of his issues. There's so many people just know he has a brand name of Coca-Cola. But a lot of people.
Well, it's funny. My mom came out one time, and he had just gotten into office, and we were downtown. I said, while we're down here, we're by City Hall. I said, let's see if Sal's in. I said, I know him. He's our councilman.
What year was this?
I don't remember. Whatever the first year he got in. And it's probably back in the 90s.
90s.
Yeah. And we went out to lunch with my mom and Sal and him, and we had a nice lunch. And he had just
How do you pronounce his last name?
DeCiccio.
DeCiccio.
Right.
That's got to be Italian.
Yes. He was born in Italy, I believe.
Was he really?
Yeah, so he can't run for president.
But he can be president of Ahwatukee, right? Is that what the city councilman is? So how many HOAs do you think are in the Ahwatukee? Is there a list of them?
They're trying to put a website together that you can go to the HOA, so I as a realtor can go there and see the fees when the house is sold. also you as
For
a...
each individual HOA?
Yeah,
or
'cause all the costs vary.
Ryan, Google, see if you can find a list of HOAs in Ahwatukee. What zip codes are in Ahwatukee? It's
850-4445 and 48.
850-4445
850-45 and 850-48.
and 48.
Yeah,
So 444548 is all of Ahwatukee.
correct.
Yeah.
That goes all the way to 27th Avenue.
27th Avenue. True or false? Because maybe you live in Ahwatukee and you have certain thoughts, and maybe you think you're going to buy your rental property somewhere else better. Some people say that owning a home is a better investment if it's protected in an HOA, and some people say that's not true. Do you think an HOA makes your buying a home or rental property a better investment?
When I first started selling out here, there was ABM, but there were no HOAs that I was dealing with. And then all of a sudden your HOAs came into effect, and all of a sudden I'm selling homes with HOAs, and now I had another objection from the buyer to overcome. And as a salesman, you listen to objections and then deal with it. So I do feel the HOAs originally were formed to keep property values up. Nobody likes to see a car on boxes leaking oil parked in your front yard. I think some of the HOAs abuse their power, and again, you get into personalities. And I think in general, HOAs are good, and the problems I hear with people usually are more on a one-to-one or dealing with different personalities. Somebody may be on an ego trip at the HOA, etc. And I'm not talking about Ahwatukee, I'm just talking about in general.
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
Are HOAs for-profit private businesses, or are they non-profit volunteers from the neighborhood?
No, they're businesses.
They're all businesses. Do they have?
There are some there are some HOAs that are not, but for the majority, they are businesses. They're professional management companies, such as ABM, etc. I have seen HOAs.
Is ABM a big one in Ahwatukee?
That's the master for Ahwatukee.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ahwatukee Board of Management. I've heard of that.
Yeah, so
Do they have a physical building out here, or?
Yeah, that's by Nello's, where the pool is,
Yeah.
and that's ABM.
Oh, okay.
And I walk that park every morning.
Yeah.
That's the ABM
And they
park.
just put a neat little memorial there. Did you see that? The Veterans Memorial there?
I have a brick for my dad there.
Really?
Yeah. It's the Blue Star Memorial.
When was that built?
About 3 years ago.
Yeah, I just saw it the other day for the first time on my walk. How did that come about 3 years ago?
That I wasn't involved with. Pete Meyer would be a good guy to ask about that.
And who's Pete Meyer?
Pete Meyer is, I've known him since I've been in real estate. He used to be the broker for Presley, and he's very active with the VFW.
Can you send him over to the show?
Yeah.
Can you call him or email him?
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
And he's active with the lakes
Because Veterans Day was just a couple days ago.
Saturday.
And my mom was emailing all the kids pictures of her two brothers who both served in the Navy illegally.
My dad went into, he was 16 or 17 when in World War II, and then was in the Korean War as well. He was in the Marines.
I got to tell you a story about him, but I said that illegally. They were so scared at World War II. I forgot the age you had to be. I think, did you have to be 17 or
18?
You had to be 18. So they both signed up and lied on the form, and they didn't get caught.
Right.
And so they served World War II illegally, but when they came out, they couldn't. They had to keep the lie going. So for the rest of their lives, because it was a crime, it could hurt their pension, their Social Security. It just messed up everything.
Well,
But back then there wasn't computers,
No.
and none of them birth certificates were.
And my dad got permission from his parents. So as long as you could go in under 18, as long as your parents consented.
Well, and I'm sure that might have been. He was in state of Washington, but that didn't work for him back then. But he had to lie that and then keep the lie going the rest of his life. Yeah, man, that was scary times. I remember where he was always telling us when we were little that after they bombed Pearl Harbor. Next would be Seattle, Portland, San Fran, Los Angeles, and he thought, I don't want him bombing Portland. Let's go get them, you know.
Yeah.
But man, those were crazy times. Is you talked about two, you know, staying on that rental property deal. You talked about Sun City. Is that matured and built out, or is there still land, or will that continue to grow over the years? And the same question with Maricopa.
I don't know that much more about Sun City. I haven't sold something there in a few years, but I think that's pretty much built out. Just had dinner at Tom and Julie Bartolone's house, and they live in Sun Lakes, but they're moving to Sun City. I met her through Toastmasters years back, one of the clubs I started, and they just completely gutted and refurbished the house. I don't remember what year it was built.
So Sun Lakes is north of Sun City?
Sun City's all the way on the west side of town. Sun Lakes is Riggs Road.
Oh, Sun City is over by Peoria.
Right.
But down here is just Sun Lakes.
Right.
There's no, I thought you said there was Sun City and Sun City West.
They're both on by
Oh,
Peoria.
Sun City and Sun City West. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm confusing all that with Sun Lakes.
Yes, but they're all Del Webb developments.
And is Dill Webb still a developer out here?
Oh yeah, they're building down in Pinell County right now.
Yeah. And now it's in the newspapers that Bill Gates bought 20,000 acres. Did you see that?
No.
By the city, he bought the whole Tonopah area. It was the largest land tract for sale, and they said after it was 20,000 acres, I think it was $80 million. And they said after that, most of the parcels were just in the 5,000, 3,000 range. But it was the biggest standalone parcel
By Tonopah?
by Tonopah.
Well,
I just bought it.
I had 166 acres listed on I-10, just 2 miles inside La Paz County. So I learned a little bit about that area. What he's probably banking on is the I-11, which is going to connect. Right now there's no interstate from Phoenix to Vegas. So I-11 will be the interstate for international commerce from Canada to Mexico. That's going to be part of that.
I've never heard about any of this.
Yeah.
They're going to build an interstate from Mexico to Canada,
Well,
and it's called I-11.
I-11 will be the segment here that's not connected. So right now, if you want to go from Phoenix to Vegas, you can't take an interstate there.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of Mexico, you just walked into that. Tell us about Rocky Point. Is that a solid investment? I mean, truth be known, their drug war down there has been pretty brutal. They're averaging 10,000 murders a year. The last president, the presidents in Mexico only served one term.
Right.
It's 6 years, and when the last guy finished his term, 60,000 citizens died in the drug war.
Yeah. And
That's crazy.
And what the problem I see in Rocky Point, I've been going down there since 1975 when I was going to ASU, is the media's got everybody scared to death to go down there. So you have tourism is what drove the town or drives the town. Now people are afraid to go down there, and I'll go back. Restaurants I've gone to for 20, 30 years are now closed down. They're just not supporting it. And now they're bringing cruise ships into Rocky Point.
Big ones?
Yeah. They got a jetty they're building when I was down there. I don't know if they finished it yet. I haven't been down there. Last time I was down there was last February, whale watching. But they're actually going to bring...
You know the best place to go whale watching?
Where?
When I look in my bathroom mirror. Does that mean buy low, sell high? That the media scared everybody out? Prices are down. This would be the good time to pick up a condo in Rocky Point because you're saying it is safe.
I think it's safe. Yeah.
You think it's safe?
Yeah.
I have several friends.
It's
that
common sense when you go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I don't think you. I've never been worried about going down there. I think, and the only problems I've had down there, drunk Americans.
Yeah.
They say Americans leave their brains at the border.
Yeah. Well, if you're in vacation mode and you're going to go down there and drink,
Spring break. And,
drink fancy drinks and you're on vacation, I could see how that would be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and it's changed how they used to purchase property or obtain property down there. It used to be a 99-year lease, and then that changed to what you do is you form a trust now in Mexico, and the trust owns. Let me back up. You can buy property in Mexico inland and get a deed on it, even though you're not a citizen. But when there's a perimeter, the border and the coastline, that no, unless you're a national.
And how deep? You have to be a national to own on the coastline.
Right. Unless
How far in?
I think it's 50 kilometers from the border and 12 kilometers from the beach. It's been a while. I have to check. I haven't done much in Mexico lately.
Yeah.
And what I did is I wanted to build a house on the beach, so the land I bought, I formed a Mexican corporation. So you form a Mexican entity, and then that can take title to the property. So it gets complicated.
So you think Mexico's on its way up, or do you think that's a society on the way down as far as this?
Do you think they're stable politically?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, if I were looking for an investment, I'd stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That I wanted to build a house.
Investment is so complicated. To sit there and try to do it on the side in Mexico or Canada, I mean, you don't know Canadian laws. I mean, you don't know Mexican laws.
I'll give you a little scenario. When the market crashed, a lot of Canadians bought at the low end. So instead of coming to snowbirds and renting, they actually had a house. They come here, usually November, spend Thanksgiving, fly back Christmas, and then stay till April, depending on the weather. Then lock it up for 6 months. Now, what they're doing is that house now may have 100,000 equity in it from when they bought it, and because the Canadian dollar is weak, if they make $100,000 on selling their house here, go back to Canada, now that's worth 134,000 Canadian. So what a lot of Canadians have been doing is they've been selling off the property, making money on the conversion. They're making money on the house, on the real estate, and then they're making money on the conversion rate. And they'll be back, but they'll come back with snowbirds and rent for the winter. So, and one thing that, as far as investment too, a lot of people went and bought houses with the intention of just keeping them for short-term rentals, and that seems to be a lucrative business. I'm not doing anything with that, but if the economy crashes, then those investors, seminar I went to, they talked about that if the economy were to go down and people weren't coming out for doing as much vacationing, you'll see that market kind of slide as well. So you have cycles, you have all different elements of real estate. Yeah, it's always changing. It's like walking on loose gravel. You don't know.
So tell my homies what they're going to find on your website, ahwatukeerealty.com.
Interesting, we just had a meeting today. So we use that to showcase our properties. We also use it to apply for rentals. You can go to the portal, apply it directly online right now. And then this morning what I talked about is, right now there's a link so you can search MLS and search any listing.
What's MLS?
Multiple listing service. So it doesn't just have to be our listings. We can sell listings listed with other realtors. So this morning we talked about making it a little more friendly. And then another component I want to add to our website we talked about this morning at our office meeting was to add the Cromford Report.
The what?
Cromford Report.
Cromford Report. What's that?
It's run by a mathematician, and he studies the cycles and numbers, and he's super
Can you
accurate.
find that, Ryan? The Cromford Report? So tell us about the Cromford Report.
It's amazing statistics, and it's good for the consumer to use and for realtors. So what I'm seeing now, go back talking to millennials and websites and that, a lot of realtors feared the web when it came out. And what they were concerned about is, are people going to need realtors? What I'm finding now is people go on the internet and they'll do their research and be very knowledgeable when they come to you, and they still need us. But things on the internet, such as the Cromford Report, will help people make a better decision. They can see what the trend is at the time, where it came from, and where it's going.
I've never even heard of the Cromford Report. That's very... Yeah, the boomers, when I got out of school 30 years ago, and you tell someone what they need, they'd always say, well, you're the doctor. And it's really fun and interesting and challenging with millennials, and they'll say, well, I know you're a dentist, but I just did a 15-minute Google search on root canals, and they start saying all this thing, and it's so bizarre because take issues like just water fluoridation.
Right.
95% of all the websites talking about water fluoridation are just junk science people. A lot of them, you don't realize that behind the scenes they're trying to sell reverse osmosis.
Yeah, it's all marketing.
And books and marketing, and you just Google like root canals. There's all these people out there. There's websites that say, what do 100% of all people that died of cancer have in common? They had a root canal. Then there's another one that 96. It's just like, wow. I thought the internet would be this amazing thing to spread the most amazing information around the world.
Right.
But it's actually spreads far more misinformation.
Well, it's marketing.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, you and I can take the same statistics and make two completely separate arguments with the same statistics. And I don't know how much to believe anymore in the media, etc. And what sounds like what you were just talking about is the people using the internet, they're creating a fear factor almost, that you need our product because you're going to get cancer because you had a root canal. Oh, so that's what I mean by marketing. They're
Well, what's your when you are on the internet reading about real estate advice,
right.
and you've been a realtor for 40 years, is what you're seeing on the internet, what percent of it would be great information, what percent of it would be misinformation?
Zillow has, so the average consumer I talk to is going to, before they talk to me, most of them have gone on Zillow or Trulia, and those two companies now merged.
Or Trulia?
Yeah, those two companies merged.
Zillow
and Trulia.
Z-I-L-O, right? Somebody's Zillow. Z-I-L-L-O.
O-W.
Z-I-L-O-W.
Right.
And the other one was what?
Trulia. T-R-U-L-I-A.
And are they merged? Is one going to be? Are they all going to become Zillow, or they'll still be two separate websites just owned by the same guy?
They're same parent company, but they still kept their branding names.
Okay.
So the average person will go to Zillow, or I'll go on a listing, and they say, well, what do you think my house is worth? And I'll tell them, well, when I went on Zillow, it said this. Or I'm working with a buyer. Well, Zillow said. So Zillow, everything's Zillow. Zillow will admit that the majority, that their information is off up to 10%. They'll admit that. And the other problem I have with people using Zillow is that most of the information is old. So if I post a house that I have say I list your house, I list it, put it on the internet, it's going to go on Zillow, Trulia, etc. We sell the house, and I don't call Zillow and tell them to take it off. I've had people come to me and say, oh, what about this house? And I'll call the agent. But that closed 6 months ago. So if people are going to use the internet to research, probably the most current website would be realtor.com.
It's funny, a lot of people put so much time and thinking into their name. Like you're the Ahwatukee Realtor, or Ahwatukee Realty.
Right.
Because that name, it shows geography, you're in Ahwatukee.
Right.
Shows what you do, realty, real estate. But where do names like Zillow, how do you associate Zillow?
I have no idea.
And Trulia, what comes to your mind when you think of Trulia?
That the millennials in that's...
And some of the biggest companies in America, like Xerox.
Right.
I tell people, when you're starting a business name, just go execute your business, because if you're successful, it wouldn't matter if you're Zila, Trulia, Xerox,
What's referrals? That's the best way to get more business.
Word of mouth referrals.
Yeah.
And you were in the... we were in the Kiwanis together. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Was it Kiwanis or Rotary?
I saw Dwayne Brickner. Remember Dwayne?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still around.
What's he doing?
He's in an assisted living facility.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he was in
Were we in the Kiwanis or the Rotary?
Which one? Because I was in both.
Yeah, I was in both too.
We were in both.
Yeah, we were both. I love that. I was a little kid. I opened up my dental. I was 25. Didn't know anybody, and I just wanted to meet some friends,
Right.
And those are back at the fun time. Remember Lynn Hennessy?
I saw Lynn last week at Chamber Mixer.
Wow. That was so fun, and what was really great is you got a lot of parenting advice. You know what I mean? I mean, there were a lot. I was 25. There were a lot of 65, 75-year-old. Like I remember when I opened my dental office, I opened 7 days a week,
Right.
and it was Pastor Don Snyder at the Kiwanis Club. Come put his arm around me and said, "Hey, don't open Sunday. You're married. You have a family. Your employees don't need it. Don't do Sunday." And he's giving me this big old spiel, you know, it's Lord's Day and this and that, and I thought, and I listened to him, and he sold me. You know, most kids at 25 know it all, and but there was a lot of it was just I really enjoyed that.
I try and take Sundays off, otherwise it's 24/7. And I have a quick story about
But
Pastor.
isn't Sunday a realtor's biggest day? Isn't that when everybody wants to go home shopping or has open houses?
Well, yeah,
or?
people you want to be around. But I have salespeople, so I'll give them
okay.
leads. And myself personally, I go to church Sunday, and then I try and do stuff. And I was going to tell you a quick story about Pastor Snyder, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I started 2 Toastmaster clubs. And the first one I started, we met at Mountain View Lutheran Church. And originally, the only 2 buildings that were not residential was the Circle K, which is now where Walgreens is, and the Mountain View Lutheran. So we're meeting at Mountain View Lutheran. I'm early 20s, nervous. I've got people from Tempe Toastmasters. Pastor Snyder is there. He's interested in Toastmasters with a few other people. So I'm there. Have you been to a Toastmasters meeting?
Never.
So I'm there and I'm following the agenda. And one of the things when you start out at the beginning of the meeting is, does anybody have a joke? You have a joke master. So Pastor Snyder raises his hand and he says, "I don't have a joke, but I'd like to share a dream I had last night." I said, "Go ahead, Pastor Snyder." So he said, "Well, in this dream, I died, and I went to hell, and chained up in front of me for all of eternity is the ugliest looking woman I have ever seen," which I thought was an appropriate punishment, because I do tend to like to look at the women. I forget how he phrased it. And I looked down, and there's Chad, chained up for all of eternity in front of the most beautiful looking woman I've ever seen. So as I'm there, the pastor walks by, and I say, "Devil." And he said, "Yes, Pastor." He said, "I understand my punishment, but I don't understand Chad's." And the devil said, "Pastor, it's not Chad being punished, it's the woman." He set me up perfectly.
Oh my God, that's a great joke. Oh, I love Pastor Don. He was so adorable. And it was they had a thing with Don's. I think after Pastor Don Snyder, the next one was Don. I think they have 3 Dons in a row.
I used to go to Mountain View Lutheran. Actually, I've been married, and I was married there in 1980 at Mountain View Lutheran.
So now you're involved with another church.
Yes.
Now tell me about this church. How are you? It's the Lamb of God Lutheran Church,
Right.
599 East Chandler Boulevard. Give me a visual. Ryan, can you send me the web link, www.mylambofgod.org. Give them a visual. Where's 599 East Chandler?
Where the foothills drops in the Club West, with the church on top of the hill.
Oh, on the north side.
South side.
When
So you drive past Safeway.
Oh, you're talking about way down in the foothills.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought when the LA Warner Loop or the Chandler Ray Loop.
No.
So when you're deep in the foothills and you pass Safeway, then you drop down that hill.
Yeah, the church on the top of the hill there.
On the left.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That is a. When I go cycling, that is a horrible hill going up, and a very fun hill going down.
Yes.
But anyway, so tell us about that story.
I went to Mountain View Lutheran, got married, got divorced, kind of backed away from the church a little bit, and I started the Chamber of Commerce. And
You started the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
You started the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce? What year was that?
It was 21 years ago.
Wow.
About 95, 96. Took me 2 years. I researched it. I was approached by the Republican Party to run for county assessor, and I said, no, I'd rather start a chamber. So I started the chamber, but Pastor Ehlers came, and he calls me up at Ahwatukee Realty, and he wants to find a rental. So I find him a rental. The next week, he calls the chamber office. I was helping with the phones, and he said, "Hi, this is Pastor Ehlers. I like demographics for the area." And I said, "Well, this is Chad. I just rented you a home." what do you need the demographics? Well, he said, I'm here to start a church. I said, what kind of church? He said, a Lutheran church. I said, I'm Lutheran, you want help? He goes, okay. So we were meeting up at Cerritos, and until we found something, and they asked me to find a church site. So I talked to Jim Spatafor, who...
Oh my God, I bought my second home was his
ABC.
home.
Oh, it was his own personal home.
Yeah, when I had my fourth boy, I needed to get more rooms.
Right.
And I bought Jim Spatafor's old home. He was moving.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
So I approached Jim and I said, I'm helping the church find a site here. Do you have anything? And he looked, he said, they're all gone. And then as an afterthought, he said, we have the old rock quarry. And you know where Eagle Ridge is? Well, they blew up the top of Eagle Ridge and all the rock got pushed down, and they had a rock crusher. So all the ABC for the Club Foothills, Club West came from our site, the quarry. And he said, we were going to build custom lots there, but it's too close to Chandler. It didn't work on the other spots we did, and I'll sell you that. So we brought the old rock quarry, 3.5 acres. The association didn't want the liability of the cliffs around it, so they deeded it to us. So we have 7 acres, and I was on the building committee and helped. I found the land, put the deal together, built the church, and now I'm vice president on the church council, and I'm the property chairman.
And who's the pastor?
Pastor Scott Martz, M-A-R-T-Z.
Have him come on the show.
Yeah.
It's funny the request, chair side you get about churches. A lot of people, this is probably politically incorrect to say, a lot of people get married and maybe they're from different faiths.
Right.
Like maybe they're Catholic and Jewish, and they want a third party church, you know what I mean? Or
non-denominational.
Non-denominational. I guess they grew up very dogmatic, and they just want something less legalistic. What would you call it? That conservative or orthodox?
Less structured.
Yeah, and Luther.
Traditional.
Yeah, and so it seems like our parents were very dogmatic religion. Like my mom and dad were just Catholic to the letter, everything. But it seems like the millennials are more spiritual. They're like, I know there's something greater than me, but I don't believe you can't eat shellfish or Catholics can't use birth control.
My mom's Irish Catholic. Her parents came from Ireland.
I'm sorry, I feel your pain.
Grew up with my dad. I got confirmed Lutheran back in Long Island. So I stayed with the Lutheran. In fact, last week I saw the movie Martin Luther, The Idea to Change the World.
Is it a new movie or the one from 10 years ago?
No, it's a new one. This is the 500th year of the Reformation.
And it's at the big screen?
We had to reserve a theater, so it was a special showing.
But I mean, is it a big screen showing, or Ryan? Can you find that movie? You know that it really wasn't Martin Luther. You know what it really was? It was the fact that Martin Luther's message came at the same time as the printing press. So he was in the right spot.
Right at the right time.
Lots of people had messages similar to him years and centuries before.
Well, do you know how he was a scholar? Do you know much about him?
Mm-hmm.
But when the printing press came out, at the same time, and he put his thesis on the cathedral door, and that it was over in indulgences that the church was doing and selling those. So they took it and they printed it and started, and he didn't know it. Word spread out, and he had no idea what was going on, and everything just snowballed. So it was a good movie. And
every one of those 95 deals eventually went through. I mean, all those things that he wanted reformation on, they eventually all went through. But at the time he posted them, they wanted to kill him.
Well, he got excommunicated and fight.
So I got to tell you my story of Martin Luther. So Martin Luther got saved by a cloistered Carmelite nun. And my oldest sister is a cloistered Carmelite nun of the same order as the one that 500 years ago was the one who hid Martin Luther in a wine barrel and went through all the guard posts of people looking for Martin Luther and took him all the way to England. And then that cloistered Carmelite nun dropped out of the nunnery and married Martin Luther, and they had like 11 kids.
Right. Yes.
So I always tell my sister, I said, are you going to drop out of the nunnery and marry some Lutheran guy and have 11 kids? And now she's 60, and she says no. She's too old for that.
We're supposed to get a copy of the movie. I'll ask Pastor Martz and see if I can get it to you.
And what's the pastor's name?
Scott Martz, M-A-R-T-Z.
Will you send him here to come on the show?
Yeah.
Lots of people, when they move here, Ahwatukee, I mean, what percent of people, what percent of the 87,000 people were born in Ahwatukee versus moved here from afar?
Well, it's fun. I'm meeting a lot of younger people now that were born here, but it's funny on my street.
But back in the day, it seemed like when I built my practice in the 80s and the 90s, everybody was moving here from somewhere. I mean,
Right.
It was about 10% California, 10% North, South Dakota, Canada. I mean, northern places, Iowa, Kansas. So when they get here, a lot of them are trying to set up some roots. So they're looking for, Kiwanis Club, Rotary's Club, the Chamber of Commerce, the church, whatever. And a lot of them. So I think it's a great way to ham talk, so my homies in Tukey can see if that church is the right fit for them.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it. The Pastor Martz is a super nice guy, and he did a sermon Sunday, and he showed a little clip afterwards on YouTube, which was pretty tied everything in with the sermon, and he was talking about anger and how you'll have justified anger, but if you don't do something about it, then it becomes sinful anger. And at the end of the sermon, he showed a little clip. It was interesting there's a fellow riding his bicycle, and a guy hit him in his truck and broke his back. And the neurosurgeon doesn't know how the cord did not sever. He said it was doing a 90-degree angle. Basically what happened is the neurosurgeon was able to do surgery, put everything back together. They didn't think the guy would walk again. 1 year from the date of the accident. Oh, and the guy that hit him went to the hospital he wanted to apologize. And when he saw the guy in the bed, the guy said, "You're forgiven." So a year after from the time of the accident, the neurosurgeon, the patient, the guy that got hit, and the driver did half a marathon together. And the guy that hit in driving the truck that hit the bicyclist, he couldn't finish. So the neurosurgeon and the bike rider, they finished the marathon. They went back to get him, and they helped him back across the finish line. So it was pretty neat. But he has good sermons. He always has a good message.
I used to always love that saying, holding a grudge on someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Well, you're giving them power over you, so.
And life's too short. And you know what? The other thing is, humans are crazy. I mean, you can't let some bad day ruin your life. You know what I mean? There's so many people who don't forgive themselves for something they did in college or 10 years ago.
I think you have. I've come a long way. I feel like I've grown up here in Ahwatukee, and a couple of things I've learned is that's helped me is, especially with family, is you don't have to like something to accept it, but that's just the way things are. And once you get to that thinking that and not take things personally, it helps so much. We don't get agitated, etc.
Yeah. And the other thing with family that I always see is that people hold their family to such higher standards than their friends that they hang out with all the time. Like, they'll get so upset that their brother or sister did this, and I'm like, isn't your best friend Shelly? Let's talk about your best friend.
Or yourself.
Compared to your sister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, why does Shelly get a pass on everything, but your sister is, you're crucifying her. And it's like, come on.
I went back in January for my mom's 83rd birthday, and I have two brothers and a sister, and I said, let's take Mom out to eat. And my sister was mad at my brother Jimmy. She said, well, I'm not going to go out with Jimmy for dinner. I had a shirt made up I wore back. It has comedy and tragedy. It says, drama should stay in the theater, not the family. And I wore it back.
I love it. Well, go to his website, AhwatukeeRealty.com. I can vouch for this guy for 30 years. Chad, it's been so fun to know you for 3 decades. Thanks so much for stopping by and talking to my Tukey homies. Thank you very much.